All right, ladies and gentlemen, around the Delaware Valley, welcome to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. We've got a fantastic broadcast. We got a great guest who's no stranger to the broadcast. Sean Quinn, our host. How are you, sir?
I am well, Joe. It is officially Red October, so we are, gearing up. And as we always talk a little sports, Caitlin's going to jump right in, and she probably can see over my shoulder. There's an homage to her alma mater there, but it's a great day in Philadelphia.
It is, and we're going to have Caitlin give us the history of the Phillies playoff series right now for going back to 1908. Just kidding, Kate. Kate Files, by the way, not only no stranger to the broadcast, but she's the host of the Files Law Hour here on WWDB. Kate, how are you?
I'm doing well, Joe. How are you, Sean? Thank you for having me. And yes, go Irish. I was actually at the game this weekend. I was down in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Very nice. Very nice. I was going to ask you when the last time have you been to any games yet this season? So we answered that first question. So
yeah,
I'm not an alum, but a huge fan, and so I got my Rudy jersey up on the wall, signed by good old Rudy Rudiger up there. So
there you go. Even I don't have that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? I saw 45, but I didn't put.
I thought that was my college number, but I was 71, so I was a different animal.
And it is amazing because you played football in college, and you're a massive. Obviously, you're a massive Notre Dame fan, and so I'm
like every Irish Catholic kid.
I was just gonna say
that doesn't plan on going to Penn State, even though I did Penn State for law school. It's kind of ingrained in your blood.
Well, it's interesting because, yes, I was just going to say that. Irish Catholic, Notre Dame fan since I was a little kid. My dad obviously turned us on to Notre Dame. But, Kate, how about that in the playoffs last year? Notre Dame, Penn State.
Listen, I have no love lost for Penn State. I'm not a Penn State fan. That game was intense. My brother-in-law is a huge Penn State guy, Penn State grad, so – there was a lot on the line with that game, and I thought we were going to handle them a little better than we did.
Well,
it was intense.
It was still, a lot in the state of Pennsylvania, man. I mean, you have what do they call it? The fans of Notre Dame that didn't go there. It's not the subway. The massive fan base that you have around the country that are not graduates, but so it's a big, obviously, fan base and in Pennsylvania, that was crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kate.
No, I was just saying it was a crazy. I mean, the whole run up into I went down to the national championship game. I was out at the playoff game because Notre Dame hosted their first ever playoff game, obviously, too. So it was an awesome season. And I mean, we've had a little bit of a heartache at the start of this season, but
college football is crazy anymore with the portal.
It's the best though.
Yeah, I mean it is, and to come, I'd love it's a bucket lister going to a Notre Dame game. Must be, just incredible. I do want
to get your picture taken with Touchdown Jesus before you go in because the renovation killed that picture.
Yeah.
Once they did the expansion and they closed off that portion of the stadium, you can no longer get a good shot. I think you can just get Jesus's head.
Yes.
So if you want a picture with Touchdown Jesus, do it before the game.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. So, Sean, you mentioned obviously, Kate. I'll tell you, Sean's one of the great baseball fans on the planet, and you could.
I don't know about the best. I don't know about on the planet, but I certainly can hold my own.
It's a compliment coming from Joe.
Well, it's true though because I'll turn social media. I'll go on Facebook, and you never know what stadium Sean and the family are going to be at, and it's such a big tradition. And here we are. It's Red October. What an incredible time of year. And when it's interesting also because you have football and baseball. Yep. This is just a magical time of year.
Best time of the year.
South Philly. When you look at like what's going to happen this weekend alone, you have the Phillies game, and let's be honest, they're going to be playing the Dodgers this weekend. So you're going to have a Dodgers-Phillies game for game 1 of the NLDS on Saturday night, and then you have an Eagles game less than 24 hours later. So South Philly is going to be crazy.
And Notre Dame at 3:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. On top of all that. That's
right.
The complex alone is going to be chaos because you got a Temple game, then you have a Flyers game, then you have a Phillies game all on Saturday.
I love it.
And by the way, Kate is a hell of an athlete herself. She's a big time runner. And you know, one of the things I was going to, and we'll get into it a little bit, is sports and the law. When I say that, I'm talking about, and I think we've all talked about it, as athletes and competitors every day in your careers. Obviously, those intangibles that people get out of sports, which I love the commercial when they show the college kids and they say these kids are all going to go pro, 99.5% of them in something other than the sport that they're playing. But a lot of those intangibles stick with people throughout their careers, whatever career they choose. But I before we get into that, Sean, what are your thoughts, you know, on this postseason?
Listen, it's awesome, like it always is. You go into it with a level of enthusiasm. I mean, expectations are sky high. We sometimes have a unrealistic expectation when we go into some things, but I think the reality is we got a puncher's chance to win a World Series, and you know that's all you can ask for when you go in. And listen, I think a Dodgers-Phillies series is essentially a World Series. Those are probably, in my opinion, the two best teams in baseball right now. So in 5-game set, anything could happen, but I have a feeling that home field advantage is going to play a factor. So fingers crossed.
So anybody see the game last night? The Dodgers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sean's like, silly question.
Come on, we were watching it all day in the office.
Did you see the game,
I have
Kate?
a series of baseball fans that work here. They've had it all broadcast. We were watching every game yesterday. It's fun.
Kate, did you see any of the game?
No, I didn't. I'm not even going to pretend. I was looking up Jeremiah Love stats. I'm not watching baseball.
That's right.
But listen, having said that, it could have turned out one of the historic games of all time. One pitch, if the you know the hitter for the guy back, I forget his name, for Cincinnati, doesn't swing at those 3 balls, you have a historic 10-2 down, and you know they could come back from down 10-2 Cincinnati, and my wife and I are sitting there watching, and we're like, this could, and you always want to see something historic, but it is going to be the Dodgers, and it is going to be, you know, it's a little crazy, but you know, you're right. You usually don't play a team like the Dodgers of their caliber in the first series, but bring them on.
Listen, the whole baseball, the baseball gods aligned. You have the Yankees playing the Red Sox right now in the first round. You have division rivals in Detroit playing Cleveland right now. It all lined up. The baseball gods were very kind to the fan that's out there. But listen, hopefully by the next time we are all together for a baseball show, we're planning a Broad Street parade. So let's fingers crossed. Hopefully we're there.
Go ahead, Kate. I'm sorry.
Sean, I was going to ask you, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I actually love going to baseball stadiums. And it's one of the reasons I love Boston. I think Fenway is absolutely fantastic. Do you have a favorite stadium?
So yeah, it's a great question. And we do. But we are currently at, as of today, 26 out of 30 stadiums down.
Wow.
So we only have left Arizona, Toronto, Detroit, and the White Sox, and that's an asterisk next to the White Sox because I've been there, but my family hasn't. So it doesn't count in the overall grand scheme until my son knocks that off the box as well. So yeah, right now, San Diego. I mean, it's really hard to beat that combination of weather, accessibility to the waterfront, nightlife, and it has a great stadium feel, and plus a lot of good beer, a lot of good tacos. Really hard. It's like cheating that they, but listen, when you have an average weather of 75 to 77 all year round, it's an unfair advantage that we just can't compete with.
Yeah, my best friend lives in San Diego and she's a huge baseball fan. She is constantly at the games. And when we go to visit, it is just a different feel. There's a park. There's literally a park in the middle of the stadium. So they're just hanging out on the hill. And it's just, I was like, well, if this was what Citizens Bank was like, I might come to more games too. It's pretty cool. It's pretty
very
cool.
True. Very true.
Oh, it's interesting because, you talk, first of all, you mentioned Chicago White Sox at the stadium. It is we're spoiled here. And Kate, obviously being from the Philly area, the fan base here, in no matter what it is, okay, as fanatical as you can get. We all know that. We're all Philly people. And so we get that. But one of the saddest things, we've seen, I've seen, the Chicago White Sox, like one time last year, and that's a massive stadium, where there was like 200 people in the entire stadium. And, it's showing what I know they haven't been good. And this year, I think when the Phillies or one of the teams played them, I think it was the Phillies. There was definitely a couple thousand people there. And so it wasn't quite like that. But what do you equate that to? Not being good's one thing, but damn,
I think this kind of really ties into almost anything in any business. If you don't put a product out, and we can do this as lawyers, right? If you don't put a product out that people are happy with, they're not going to come. And unless you invest in your team, and we could say the same thing about law firms, unless you invest in your team, unless you show that you're committed to some level of excellence, people just aren't going to come to your restaurant. They're not going to come to your law firm. They're not going to come. So, when Philly went through the lean years where they weren't spending money, and they had all these young kids between the Cole Hamels era and the Bryce Harper era starting, the Philly the Philly faithful, despite how enormous baseball fans they were not showing up at Citizens Bank Park. And the reason being is the product on the field. But I'm just a big believer that in anything, if you invest in the team and your town or whatever kind of business it is, if you do the little things to show that you are committed, fans follow.
By the way, Kate, are you seeing that play like a champion sign behind Sean?
Yeah. That's what he was saying in the beginning of the thing.
I'm looking at the Rudy thing, and I'm like, wait a second here.
Joe, I can smell that through there.
We did that in the pre-show. We were locked in.
I was going to say, I'm like 76 years old.
On this sign, it says the most important word, grit, which is I know I'm speaking Kate's language right there.
This is my show. This is my kind of show to be on right now.
Yeah. I was just going to say, what is your what does it say? Grit? What you're saying?
Law with grit and grace. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And it wasn't like, that I just gave you that plug. I literally have it on my wall because it's probably one of the most intangible qualities that I think anyone can have if they, it's one of the markers of success in my eyes. It's just, you can do a lot of things. We live in a hustle culture. We have all these buzz phrases we throw down, but unless you have that persistence and that makeup that's going to, Kate, I'm sure you've seen 1,000 really intelligent lawyers out there not be successful just because they lack that internal grit. And same thing with business owners. It doesn't matter. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is how you got to this place. And you obviously, we're going to go through the big jump you made from a job with one of the big firms to making a move and what you learned about yourself in that process. But I want to give you the platform. And one of the things that we always do on the show, and Joe took me off gear because he knows I'm like I'll chase that squirrel and talk about baseball anytime. But what we do on this show is give a voice to firms in town, maybe, some of the players that we don't see on every billboard and how we are making a difference in our community. And I've been really, I look back, we've actually been connected for years, but I don't know that we've ever actually sat down in the same room or on the same Zoom together. And I was looking back and I remember when you opened your firm and I remember getting that notification on LinkedIn and we were all huddled on Zoom for the first time because it was post-COVID and you made that move. So, tell me a little bit talk a little bit about the decision you made from leaving probably the biggest workers' comp and Social Security disability firm in the region, maybe in the country at this point, and making that move to opening your own shop and what you learned about yourself in that process.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you're talking about grit and Philly sports and everything. Whenever I think about grit and Philly sports, one player always comes to mind, and it's not big player. A lot of people wouldn't even know his name, but TJ McConnell sticks with me every time I think of Grit. I used to go to Sixers games when they were awful because I couldn't get enough of watching TJ McConnell play basketball because she shouldn't have even been in the NBA with his skill level, but the amount of dedication, perseverance, and just that kid gave it. He's probably older than I am. Gave it everything.
He still does. He's great.
I mean, he's awesome. Now, I mean,
he is. I have a TJ McConnell jersey. I wear it all the time. I love TJ McConnell. To me, he is like, if someone wants to see grit in action, he is it. He is the epitome of grit. And so that's like, I've always loved players like that. I've never had like the greatest skill, but I will give you 110% on that.
By the way, Sean, Caitlin coaches varsity basketball.
She's one upping me now. All right. Here I was thinking I was a baseball coach for 10 years and totally one ups me. That's awesome.
But one of the things you're also talking about, Kate and Sean, we can all relate to this. The underdog. Okay. There is no bigger underdog than TJ McConnell. He was the 12th man on that team.
Yeah.
And look at
I love him
now.
I just love him. He makes me smile. I love TJ McConnell. And talking on my team, it was funny when you're talking earlier, Sean, I picked up this program. They were about to shut down the girls program in this high school team because there's just no culture behind it. And I was talking to people, the school board, and I was like, you need to invest money because these girls are walking around in these uniforms that are falling apart. And of course, they don't care if no one's caring in them. You have to invest money in the program so that they have a standard of self-respect and pride in their school that they want to go out and perform. So when I opened my firm, the first thing I always think of is we're a community-based firm. I was born and raised in Lower Bucks County, and I came back here right when COVID hit. It was a miracle. I bought my house in Lower Bucks County probably 2 weeks before COVID hit. And then COVID hit, and I probably couldn't afford to live here at this point because houses went crazy, but it was all lined up perfectly. So once I left the big firm, I had the great experience of handling thousands and thousands and thousands of cases and working under some of the greatest, Philadelphia work comp attorneys in the state. But coming back to an area, and Joe knows this, my dad's a local doctor and he has had his own practice for 40 years and he's really in the community. People know him. People trust him that they can go to him. He has same day appointments as a family doctor because he wants to keep things open, that if his patient that he's seen for 30 years is sick, they don't have to wait 2 weeks to get in to see their doctor. So I really built it based on that he has this community-based practice and bringing the expertise of the big city to the Lower Bucks County community and growing from there. We're just out there hustling. I'm out in the community. We were at a fall fest for 9 hours last week, just handing out free stuff. And everyone's like, we remember seeing you last year. And I'm like, great, call me when you're hurt.
Yeah, no, in fact, I saw pictures of you have your tent up, you're in the community. I love it. I think, and it kind of dovetails into one of the questions I was going to ask you was, how do we differentiate ourselves as smaller firms when you have the 800-pound gorillas, marketing? Listen, our marketing budgets are a fraction of some of the big players. We're talking sometimes not even 1%. It might be 0.0001%. Obviously, my practice is in more of the third-party space in cases. So I'm competing against the Morgans of the world. The Top Dog was frankly just a referral service, not even real lawyers. And how do you go about, and I think, not to give you that proverbial softball, but, how do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself? And how do you sell yourself in this kind of ever-changing market?
Yeah, I mean, so that's it. It's people know me. They call the firm, they get me. And I talk to my clients how I'm talking to you right now. Like there is no legal lingo going on. I'll say something. I'm like, let me explain whatever that means, because that's all a bunch of nonsense of what I just said to you that another attorney would understand. The judge is going to understand, but my injured worker isn't going to understand a supersedious petition. I have to break that down and explain it to them. And the biggest complaint I started with 0 clients. I took no one from the old firm. I started from 0, built my way up to where I am today. And what we've always just, and I always send clients back. I don't like to take clients. I'm doing this on my own. So, but at some point, you know, you do have people who refuse to go back to their original firm. And the number one complaint I get every single time is I can't get in touch with my lawyer. I never see them. I don't know what they look like. And I've run into so many clients out and about in the Lower Bucks community, and they are so excited to just see me, you know, at my nephew's games or out grabbing dinner or, you know, part of the community. We sponsor a ton of events. We host a ton of women's events. So just getting out there and networking and seeing people, you want to know your lawyer. You want to trust them. And that's what we just excel at it because I like it. I enjoy it. I like that people trust me and that we take care of them. And I feel like I'm kind of living on my dad's legacy in the legal sector, whereas he's carrying it on in the medical for Lower Bucks.
That's great. And you know, one of the core values we have here is that service aspect. And I think lawyers that lose that touch, or any professional that loses that touch of remembering why we do what we do, and that is to help people and to serve them, and also don't kind of forget where you came from, right? And I think it's really commendable to, you know, and frankly, you know, I learned something. I'm like, you know what, we need to do more of those community festivals, remind ourselves. So one of the things we are implementing and have always implemented at our firm was, you know, connection around Thanksgiving time and giving back and doing all the things. Like last year, I think we donated 250 turkeys or somewhere about that. But one of our audacious ideas is let's do a day of service each month. Let's do, as a firm, we get out in the community, figure out whether it's the Frankfurt's Community Development Corporation this month, or, you know, Mercy Neighborhood Ministries, one of the organizations that's near and dear to me. How can we give back on that level? Because what I can say is those 800-pound gorillas aren't doing that. All right.
No.
They are not shutting down their firm because it's, you know, they might say it's people over profits or profits over people or whatever. I think the reality is we're going to walk that walk, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to be there every day.
And there's no reason you can't get back. Every spring, we actually get all the local businesses in Bristol Borough. And we're just talking about little local businesses, and they all donate a basket. And we do a huge kind of block party, and we fundraise for the local homeless shelter. They're the only emergency homeless shelter in all of Lower Bucks. And we raffle off. Last year, I think we brought in $1,500 in 2 hours of people just coming through. And we have Joe's been a local brewery. We do it at.
Well, I was just going to say that. What they're showing, you wouldn't believe. And I'm so excited about this show because I really want. So Kate's, you know, she's a pro, and we've been doing her show for several years now, and every scenario. Sean is, obviously expanding out to a lot of the people, a lot of the attorneys' shows in our network. So I'm excited about this because Sean, you would not believe the places we've done shows. We did a show at a local barbershop, okay, and this same for Sean. Kate will call me.
My guy would, kill me if I have a standing appointment.
Oh, they're not allowed to touch my hair, Sean.
Oh no, yeah. But
I have a standing appointment every Friday morning, so we got to,
But the point is, we did it at like 7:38 at night. I got home at like 10. Right. The answer, by the way, with me is, and it's the same with you, Sean. If the show's starting at 7, let's do it. And by the way, we go to the brew. What's the name of the
Brewing? Mm-hmm.
Naked Brewing, and so on location. But the point is that, becoming a part of the fabric of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you become a go-to. Okay, one of the things, and it's amazing because I had a list of intro topics. The two of you have covered each one, and one of the things I was going to ask you when you just kind of brought it up is, what does it mean to both of you? Okay, when a new client puts their trust in you, okay, in this world where you have, the billboards everywhere and the all these other, sleek marketing things, what does it mean to both of you when somebody, puts their trust in you, especially since they're in a difficult situation? What does that mean? I'll go to Kate first, then Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything. Think about yourself when you're in a when you're in a tough and emotional place and you need to find someone to trust to take care of something for you, and how vulnerable you are. And it can be scary. So, I think that was lost on me for a lot of years. A lot of cases means you kind of just go through the files and you get numb to it, and you have to move quickly. You have to get to your next file. So with this, we're a boutique firm. I'm able to really give the clients, the time and care that they need.
Sean.
Yeah, and for me, it's the biggest compliment, right? When somebody selects our firm, it's one of the biggest compliments that we can get as professionals. And I think the old adage is correct. People go with the folks that they know, like, and trust, right? And you have to be able to establish that credibility with them. And one of our core values, and Kate, I'm going to come back to some of the core values of your firm, because I think they're really interesting and they kind of dovetail with what we do. But one of our things is straight talk. Like, that's one of our core values. And, there was a time when we had the stupid ones up on the wall, right? All the successories, quotes, and nonsense. But when we really distilled down what we stand for, and that is talking straight to people, right? And that is one of the things that are guiding principles. And culture isn't what you say, it's what you do. And I'm a big believer that it's well beyond that. But if you talk straight to people and you're honest with them and you always shoot it straight, people are going to, whether they like what you have to say or not. Sometimes you got to, like Kate's dad, give them their medicine. And the reality is medicine doesn't always taste great, but I think people will know, like, and trust you if you can constantly give them straight talk and don't BS them.
Well, it's interesting you say that. We're going to go to break, but it's funny because labor leaders have the same issues. And it's ironic you say that. Sometimes you're not giving them good news, okay? But if they know that you care and it's about them and not about you, okay? You're not the guy walking around with the sunglasses because you're the new president of the union and yet, it's about them. Then when you got to break the bad news, if there is bad news, like, for example, you're not getting a raise. We can't get a raise. The economy's bad. We got to maybe bite the bullet this time. Yes, you're going to have some people not happy about it, but when they rest their head on the pillow, and this goes the same for what you guys do, they're going to know you have their best interest, and they're going to sit there and go, who do I want my livelihood in whose hands do I want it in? And the trust factor is where that comes. Let's take a quick break. We're going to have more from Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn and Sean's guest, Caitlin Files, in just a minute.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
Hi, welcome back to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. We've got an awesome show today. Caitlin Files of the Files Law Hour, and Files Law is Sean's guest, and we're talking about an array of topics. I'd like to start this segment off because we didn't cover it in the first. Sean, remind our listeners, obviously, about yourself and the firm, and then Caitlin, if you will, after Sean does.
Sure. Joe, you're always a gracious host, even when you step on my toes. But no, I'm kidding. I run the Quinn Law Group based here in Philadelphia. We are a personal injury firm that specializes in, for me personally, catastrophic accidents involving workplace injuries, things like that, construction accidents. I represent, in my own personal practice, the injured worker, not in a workers' comp setting, but in cases that they might have against a GC, other subcontractors, workplace accidents that necessarily involve somebody other than your employer being responsible for you getting hurt. So sometimes it's a convoluted way, but our firm, does a lot of auto accident, trucking accident cases, serious injuries. We are a boutique shop. We are 3 lawyers, 12 people total. When Caitlin was talking a moment ago about like maintaining that connection, it's one of the reasons why I've somewhat restricted our growth over the years, and by design. And that was because, people were coming to me because of my level of expertise and experience and the way I talk to them. And, one of the challenges, and this is something I want to explore with Caitlin's practice, but one of the challenges we always have when we try to scale and grow is how do you keep that pulse, right? How do you keep that connection? And how I do it is by not losing sight of where I came from. And, it's really easy to forget those things sometimes when you're chasing whatever we're trying to chase, whatever, award we're trying to chase, whatever it is. The reality is, you have to remain true to who you are, have your pulse, and also, trust the people that you bring on to represent your vision, right? I think that's one of the challenges that all firms and all businesses, like, how do you replicate and make sure that your team speaks the same language, also embodies everything you stand for. So yeah, it's always an evolution. I always say the best firm I have is the one I have today. The next best one will be the one I have tomorrow. And I'm a big believer because we got to have continuous improvement in everything we do. And that's something I kind of stick to every day.
Caitlin, if you will.
I love that, Sean. It's like truly our mission is exactly how Sean's firm is running. Just as a side note, that's amazing. I'm Caitlin Files. I run Files Law Office, and we do the injured worker side that Sean does not. We actually do the workers' comp side of things. So we don't dabble in any of the personal injury side. We send to Sean for that. And we handle all workers' compensation. We also do Social Security disability here and there. And I actually just got accredited for veterans benefits and just did my first hearing, which was the most rewarding hearing I have ever been in my entire life. I was crying as soon as I turned the camera off, I just started crying. It was so unbelievably moving, the judge and the veteran, the just respect that was shown to the vet. It was really, really powerful. But so we do workers' compensation with some sides of Social Security disability and veterans benefits. We're so small. It's just me and an intake team, but it's funny. Everything Sean was saying, I have some marketing people that we're working with now to really put some fuel in the fire. And they keep talking about as big as you can get. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I know exactly where I want to go, and I want to tailor it to that because I want to keep that boutique personal touch feel like you have, Sean, as well. So it's exactly.
And Sean and Kate, it's interesting because I can relate to you completely. Scaling, and you hear that term a lot, but growing, it doesn't mean anything if the personal touch or the culture of the firm or the business is not there. And it is so hard. I used to say this to my wife. Okay. She worked at a funny thing, a boutique, a high fashion boutique in Center City for years. And she managed the desk, and she used to come home and she'd be like, I feel like I can be doing more and all. And I said that she took that business like it was her own. She cared so much about it, the customer service, making sure all the employees, like in other words, if there was a little spit, spat between, stylists, she really cared. And I said to her, I said, it's a priceless, what you're doing is priceless. Trying to get a team of people to be able to care about the business like you do. And the reason I bring that up is, I can understand why you want to be very, obviously careful and prioritize all those things and have everything that you do an extension of yourselves. And that is, that's not only priceless, especially in the law where people are all constantly saying they can't get in touch with their attorney. They can't, keeping that focus. It's just not that easy. Sean?
No. And Joe, what I think, your wife probably told you that 20, 30 years ago, but now we have a book about that called Unreasonable Hospitality. Right. And we have, concepts called extreme ownership. And it's crazy. A lot of these principles have been around in action for years, but we didn't quite get a name for them and the tools to do them. But, listen, if you haven't read or listened to Unreasonable Hospitality, listen to it.
Mhm.
If you haven't learned and constant, that's part of our, as business owners and founders, we owe it to our team, our clients, to continue to get better, right? And sometimes that is not just perfecting what we do in the law. It's about how to run a business and how to build a better squad and how to, do those things. And but your wife obviously exemplified some ownership, even though she may not have had an ownership stake in that business. She cared about the work. She cared about the things that she did, and she cared about the success of that business. And that's something that, Kate and I have to do as business owners. And it's something that Kate has to do as a coach, and get those players to buy in and believe. And I know in today's political world, we talk about cults, right? But we have to be somewhat cultish when you're on a team too. And that is to buy into everything that we're selling and trust each other. I know, when lawyers say, I have a family here, that's no, we're a team, right? We're not a family. My family is the dysfunctional uncle who passes out after eating too much turkey on Thanksgiving. Whether I can't choose him. But the people that we surround, we want to be around A players that are just like us.
Yeah, it's funny because you talk about law firms. People don't realize. I never thought of it this way, but they're businesses, and I've been in the hospitality industry a long time. Okay, we had some great partners, and then we had some not great partners, and so many businesses don't make it. Okay, or at least partnerships. Okay, it's like getting into a marriage. Okay, and I can only imagine how careful. Okay, because you've all seen things fall apart. No question about it. I mean, Kate's smiling, and I get it. Okay.
Again, fall apart again, fall apart again.
Right. And so having that, that comfort level that the culture of the firm starts with you, and everybody there has bought into that. It trickles obviously to the client. And I'll ask you about that. I had a hospitality place. We're doing 2,000 people a weekend. A year in, I found out that the face of the place, the one thing about it that's great about both of you guys is that you're such caring people and down down to earth. That when you talk about intake, Kate, that person who's answering your phones is every bit as important as you are in a sense, because they're the first. They're never going to get to you. And I found out a year later that the person at the door was only nice to me. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, that is such a big deal. And so you guys exemplify that. Sean, I wanted to, and I know, by the way, Kate, if you could see Sean, the great thing is when I walk in with Sean, he's got an agenda. So I got to make sure that my agenda doesn't conflict with his. So I should ask, where do you want to go? And I wanted to just ask the two of you, because a lot of people hear terms, lawyer, okay? But you guys are trial lawyers, okay? Which means you're going into court and representing people, okay, on a daily basis. And there's obviously a place for those people who are behind the scenes or doing contracts, and a lot of, patent lawyers and all that stuff. But you guys, you're trial lawyers representing people who are catastrophically injured. And I'm going to, throw it to Sean and then of course Kate, but tell the people listening a little bit about what that means.
Well, I mean, listen, we are in a sea of lawyers, right? There are a lot of us out there. Some are some outstanding trial lawyers. In fact, I won't even profess to say I'm the best. I'm not. There are some amazing trial lawyers out there. What I think we do really well is that we combine great customer service with outstanding trial work and trial preparation. I think, Caitlin knows this. Any good trial lawyer knows this. Whenever you build and take on a new client, you have to assume that case is going to end up in front of a judge or a jury. And if you don't prep it that way, you're generally not going to get the best value and the best recovery for that client. It's not, we both know that not every case ends up in a trial, right? There are many cases that resolve along the way, but unless you have a true trial lawyer, somebody who's actually been in the trenches, knows what it's like to, mix it up in a courtroom and feels comfortable and has a track record of success, you're not going to get quite the results that you want. And there's a lot of firms in town that advertise themselves as trial lawyers and say they try cases, but we know that they're settlement mills and they don't quite represent the best interests of their clients, which at the end of the day doesn't quite match up with what they say they stand for.
Kate?
Yeah, I really echo everything Sean said. I mean, when you think trial lawyer, when you think about the business side of things, like you said earlier, lawyers aren't really taught how to run a law firm. And I think trial lawyers, if they don't bring in that hospitality side of things, they're doing it poorly. They're running a poor litigation law firm. When you're a trial lawyer, you're representing people, and people are your business. The business is not the litigation. The business is the people. You're in the business of serving people. And a lot of law firms are not built on a business of serving people. They're on a business of what Sean said. It's just a mill of files and cases and going through them. And sure, there's lots of settlements coming in. There's lots of files going through, and they're turning a profit. But are they actually really helping people? And I think as lawyers, we forget that you take an oath and you're there to be an advocate for your client. You take a lot of oaths of a code of ethics when you're an attorney. And I think a trial lawyer has almost a higher standard because you're representing people. That's what you do for your living. You aren't just, of course, we all represent people if you're a contracts attorney, but you're not sitting there just going through a piece of paper looking for the holes. You're dealing with people. You're a therapist. You're an advocate. And a lot of people are coming to you in the lowest moments of their lives, can't pay for medical bills. They don't have any wages coming in. They don't know how to put food on the table. And to then be treated as a file instead of as a person that you're there to give 100% to. And like Sean said, from the start, preparing that case for litigation to be in front of a judge, that's the whole beauty of being a trial lawyer and getting to run our own firms like Sean and I do.
And Kate, you and I both had the important kind of background. You did it obviously in the biggest of workers' comp firms in town, and I did it under one of the most successful third-party firms in town. We both learned under past presidents of the Philadelphia trial lawyers, firms that are well-heeled, great results, great history. And I think, what we noticed is in those firms, my predecessor firm, I spent 11 years at. Kate, you were almost 6 years at one of the biggest personal injury firms in town. And what that kind of track record gives you is see what excellence looks like, and then how we can make excellence even more excellent. Yes. And that was one of the things that I thought, listen, I learned how to be a very good trial lawyer at my old firm. I learned how to try cases between that and getting my Temple LLM in trial advocacy and really kind of honing my craft. I spent 11 years trying to be a great lawyer there. What I learned at that firm too was that we needed to do a better job at customer service. And When I opened my firm, I just felt like I could do the best of both worlds, and we weren't meeting that other half of that need. At my old shop, we thought that getting great results was the great service. And what I realized was, how many times you go to a restaurant and you sit down and you have terrible service, even if the food is good. And you're just like, you know what? I don't care how good the food is. I'm not going to go back there.
I'm back.
I'm not going back. It's about how you make people feel. It's about how you communicate with them. It's about the experience that they have. And when I opened my firm 12 years ago, I didn't know about unreasonable hospitality, but I had the idea that we needed to do things differently and talk to people and be real with people. And and Caitlin, flipping it over to you, I launched my firm in 2013. You were 7 years later in 2020 in the dawn of the pandemic. That takes guts to make that move. Like that makes you had a comfortable gig, at your old firm in terms of like, it's a big firm, it's well-heeled. You could continue doing that work. How did you make the decision to make that move? Why was that the right time for you?
Yeah. So before I get to that, when you're saying unreasonable hospitality, I only heard of that book a couple months ago, and I started to read it and I was like, oh, we already do all this. So it was very validating to be like, this was cool that we actually had this in the forefront. But so I thought I was going to be on partner track at my old firm, but I was part of the big furlough that happened at that firm. So it took me, I'll tell you, it knocked me on my boot. I was very surprised to be waking up and having no emails, no job, no nothing. Because as you know, when you come from
that was a big furlough too. There was a lot of people.
It's a big furlough. It was rough, but luckily I was very blessed that I'm well known in the community. So I had a few job offers come in. Yeah. But one of my old mentors who I hadn't talked to in a few months, who is part of, split when you come down to partnerships of firms, reached out, and I was talking to him, and I told him that, my dad has pushed me for years to open my old firm. And I thought he was crazy when I was working at that. I was like, are you kidding me? I could never run my own law firm. And finally, after I was thinking about leaving law, did I want to go become a guidance counselor somewhere? I love working with teenagers and kids. And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then my dad was just in my ear, like, why? This is the perfect time. What are you doing? And I talked to that mentor and I told him I was thinking about opening my own firm. He was like, do it. I was like, I don't think I can. I've never done anything on my own. And he was like, you are crazy that you think you just worked at that firm handling all those files and that you don't have the capacity to do it. So I did it, filed it. I had a computer and some liability insurance, and
what's amazing about it is I talked to somebody who you both know, who is a partner now at a firm, but he was also with a big firm, and he told me a story about he was going, when he was younger, he was going out to do the same thing, and he got to the door. And he realized he just quit a job that he had benefits, had everything from a firm, and he made a U-turn. Right? He got a call, from somebody coincidentally, and we went with it. But the reality of not only being a good lawyer and representing your clients, but you're running a business now. And
it's a completely different thing.
People don't realize when you're running a business that you're the last one to get paid. Okay. And so everybody, I wouldn't say everybody, but there's a misnomer that, you're the rich one, and at the end of the day, all bills get paid, all staff. And if you don't have that, the rent is getting paid so there's a trend. So to me, that to me is, it really, and you're practicing law. So, and that, by the way, is a tribute to all the firm owners out there who are the decision makers, who've stuck it out and have done a great job and suffered, and through those nervous times. So,
I think I think, Kate, you're probably experiencing similar to mine. The practice of law is probably the easy part of our jobs.
I've been waiting to ask you, Sean, what do you enjoy more? The practice of law, the running of the business at this point? Because they're completely different.
They're two different animals, right? And I think, one of the things that we don't learn in law school and we don't learn at our other firms is just how people-centric and the management of people and how challenging it is, and how to look at a P&L and teach yourself. I didn't have any training in these things,
No, we have to learn how to start accounting.
I had to learn how to be the chief cook and bottle washer, and answered my own calls for the first 6 months. And, Kate, I was fortunate. I was able to take 30 of my clients with me when I left my firm. And, and I was able to have a couple big hits in my first year that really kind of enabled me to invest in marketing and keep feeding that pipeline. So I was really kind of blessed and fortunate that we were able to work out a deal when I left my own firm about those cases, and it kind of set me up for a trajectory. But hustling into going to get those business, and you're just ill prepared. Even if you were a rainmaker at your old firm, it's different. It's learning what do you mean I have to learn how to use QuickBooks? What do you mean I have to learn how to, I need HR policies? Like, this is madness. I didn't have all these things. And I will say that some of the biggest challenges I have day to day are hiring and making sure that we have the right people in place. And I will say that, we weren't always perfect at it. And I wasn't always the best leader. I wasn't always the best, person in every role here. And what I've had to learn how to do is fire myself in certain areas and bring on people that are better than me and give them ownership and allow people to grow. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my career and in ownership of the firm is I was always trying to find the young lawyer that was just like me. And what I realized that there's no one exactly like me. I'm me. And no one's going to love this exactly the way I love it. But if I can let them like it a lot, that's awesome. Right. And learning those things about myself and my own leadership style, those were the biggest challenges I had to kind of overcome, is to get out of my own way and let people flourish and really kind of do that. But I still love getting in the trenches and trying cases. I still love it. Like I have that passion for it, but where I find myself kind of stretched too thin sometimes is working cases where I can't bring the most value, and finding people and giving opportunities like we had as young lawyers, given the opportunity to that next generation and letting them go cut their teeth on those 100 grand and less cases. And like I did. Like that's how I learned how to be a good lawyer, is by working cases up that maybe weren't the biggest value to the firm, and while at the same point honing my craft. So I think it's our obligation to train that next generation, and that's why I'm hiring right now, because I'm literally looking for somebody who's a young hard charger who just is hungry to learn and make a difference, and then we could pay it forward. So much like you do with your basketball players, you're trying to teach them that love of the game and love of teamwork and camaraderie. That's something we try to build every day. And I try to, kind of walk in, I talk a lot. Obviously I don't ever shut up. But starting to walk that walk and kind of like, live out what I'm saying.
But before you respond, kid, I want to say, Sean, you make a great parallel to coaching. Okay. And Kate's a basketball coach.
Yep.
Reminded me of, I coached football at Roman Catholic, two stints when I was younger in the 80s and then in 2000. And our head coach, it was his first year. And you talked about the beginning, and we only have a couple minutes left, but you talked about the beginning and not being the best version of yourself. Everything's new. It was the same with him. He was holding on tight. Okay. It felt like he had to do everything. And it was when he surrounded himself with good people, obviously taught them, and then let them do their job and work as a team. Okay, that thing started to flourish. Biggest turnaround I've ever seen in somebody. And so it's Kate, comment on that if you will. And we got about 2 minutes left. I want to get your contact information.
Yeah, sure. I mean, your business is your baby. It truly is. So there's never going to be a point in time where you truly trust another person to be you, because there is only one you. You just can't replicate yourself. And, you built this up from what it was. That's why I'll never take on a partner. There's never going to be something where I created this and now I want to share in this. I would love to, build the team. And I think it's right. It's not a family. It's a team. You're choosing the team, and it's that leader, because you are the coach at the law firm. You are the coach. Yeah. You're the one in charge. And it's that trickle down effect. And it's what we talked about, throwing the word cult around. You do want to create it like a cult. You want people drinking the Kool-Aid, because you want people to love the firm and to be excited to come to work and to have pride being at the law firm the same way as the team. So it all really plays together. And you can tell when you talk to someone who grew up playing team sports, you get it. Like, you understand that team feel. And I think it's why you see successful law firms of people who are not running it that way. More of it's like, we are a team here and we're going to do the best thing for the team.
So we got a minute left. Kate, if you will, your contact information, anybody wants to get in touch?
Sure. 215-987-6452. Website is filesinjurylawyers.com. And we are all over social media at Files Law Office.
Workers' compensation firm, Supreme. And Sean Quinn, if you will, take us home.
Yeah, listen, great show. Great opportunity to kind of spotlight Kate's practice and talk a little bit about myself, which I do too much. But the reality is, I love giving an opportunity to firms that are making a difference in their community. And Kate's practice is exactly that, helping the injured worker, helping people get their lives back on track. And it was a pleasure. And you can always hit us up at quinnlawyers.com and email me at Sean@quinnlawyers.com.
Awesome. Listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. Of course, we want to thank Caitlin Files, Sean's guest, for being an awesome guest. And of course, we want to thank everybody for tuning into the broadcast. On behalf of Sean Quinn and Caitlin Files, I'm Joe Doherty. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.